Hi, I'm James Sutton. This is Road to Recovery. My guest today is Judge Nelson Rupp. Welcome, Judge Rupp. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I'm from this area. Went to high school locally, went away to college, came back, went to law school here, passed the bar in 1974, started off in the state's attorney's office as a prosecutor here in Montgomery County. I was also in the public defender's office, and I spent the first 9 years of my legal career in the criminal law field. And then 10 years in the civil litigation field, and in 1993 I was appointed to the bench in the district court. And then in 1997 I was appointed to the circuit court. So as of now, I've been in the legal profession for over 45 years.
Wow.
I also teach trial practice at American University Law School, and I've been doing that for over 20 years. But I just recently retired from the circuit court. I hit 70, and 70 is statutorily senile, according to the state of Maryland.
Is that right?
Yes, it's mandatory retirement. So it's, but I stay involved with the court, and I stay involved with the legal system. I do some mediations, and I stay involved with the drug court that I started.
Right. So let's talk about the drug court that you started, because
Yes.
I think the first one was in Florida in '86. And
Yes.
when did you start the one in Montgomery County, and why did you start it?
Well, you're right. It did start back in Florida, and Judge Klein was the judge in Florida that started it in Dade County. Janet Reno, who was President Clinton's Attorney General, she was the state's attorney in Florida, so she was part of the initial movement that started drug court. And our drug court started in 2004. We accepted our first drug court participant in November of 2004. So this past November, we celebrated 15 years of our drug court. And the reason for drug court is, for several reasons. One is, I have a personal involvement in recovery, and in my experience as a judge and in the criminal justice field, I saw that the nonviolent addicted offender just wasn't being addressed with the traditional method of sentencing. The traditional method of sentencing, we take somebody who comes to court, they're a repeat offender, they're locked up. They're held accountable, they're punished, and and the person comes to court and they say the same thing over and over again. I've seen the error of my ways, you won't see me again, and I won't be back.
Right.
And then boom, within 6 months after they're released, they're back out using drugs, drinking, commit crime, and they're right back again. And the cycle keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. So drug court is an opportunity to break that cycle and to stop and to address the disease of addiction through intense monitoring, supervision, and treatment that we administer in drug court.
Okay.
It took 2 years to design our drug court. It required meeting with the state's attorney, number of agencies, state's attorney, public defender, police department, the sheriff's department, Department of Corrections, Health and Human Services, parole and probation, getting court administration, getting everybody on board, because we have these disparate agencies that are frequently at odds. For example, state's attorney, public defender.
Right.
One says one thing, the other's going to say the opposite immediately, just because that's in their DNA. That's
Right.
what they're going to do. They're going to, they're just going to oppose whatever but everybody is in agreement that our system of justice just isn't working the way it has worked in the past. And the one aspect that gives us hope is drug court. And so it took about 2 years to design it and to set it up and to arrive at a format that everybody was in agreement that would work. So we accepted our first participant in 2004.
Wow, that's fantastic, because I've seen how interagency partnerships are so difficult to bring about, even though a lot of times we have the same goal, but we want to achieve it by different ways.
Right.
I think our way is the only way.
Right.
So you guys probably set a model early on for the rest of the country.
We have, our drug court's been studied by the Department of Justice and other agencies, and we have a very effective program. Essentially, somebody comes into drug court, they're required to stay clean, We have random testing, urinalysis, random testing 2 to 3 times a week. They're required to go to treatment sessions with a certified addictions counselor 2 to 3 times per week. They're required to participate in 12-step meetings, to go to 12-step meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Chemically Dependence Anonymous, any 12-step recovery program, go to meetings 3 to 4 times per week. They're required to be committed to that program of recovery, which means having a sponsor, having a home group, having a service position, like a coffee maker, because it's not just staying clean, it's about change. It's about change. I mean, the challenge is getting someone clean, but then after that individual gets clean, the process involves change. So in addition to all these requirements, that's a lot of requirements.
It is.
They are also required to come to court on a weekly basis. And we started, when we started it back in 2004, people coming to court on a weekly basis. My first drug court case manager was, and she's still involved, Bunny Boswell.
Oh yeah, Miss Boswell. She's the queen of Montgomery County.
Bunny Boswell is a saint. I love Bunny, and she was, and she still is involved in drug court.
She is, yeah.
She's slowed down a little bit, understandably, and we have full-time case managers, but Bunny's still there regularly. And so, one of our requirements is our drug court people need to have a job. You need to have employment. You need to get back into the community. So, we're having our drug court sessions and we're having a team meeting ahead of time. And I said, well, why doesn't Hassan have a job? He's a good-looking guy. I know he's out there trying. And Bunny looks at me and she kind of squinches up her eyes and looks up at me and she goes, I'll tell you why he doesn't have a job. It's because he has to come to court once a week every week. How's he going to have a job if he's got to come to court once a week? And I thought about it and I said, all right, well, how about if we go to night court?
Oh, right. You instituted the night instead of the day
Yes.
program, right?
Yes. And, and if you think about the overall drug court structure, the bureaucracy involved of court administration, sheriffs, state's attorney, moving, it's one thing to say, all right, let's do it. Another thing is to actually do it. You would think it's like moving a mountain. But because this is the one program that truly has an impact, a positive impact on our community, everybody was on board, and we moved it to night court just like that.
Unbelievable.
And so we started doing it at night. And we would start at 5 o'clock at night. So as a judge, I have my regular docket during the day, we have a team meeting, and then we start our court at night, and they come in on a weekly basis to report. And the drug court sessions are open to the public.
Are they?
Now, oh yes. Yeah, they're regular open court sessions.
I didn't know that.
So anybody can come in, and because our program has grown so much, we now have 91 people in drug court.
Fantastic.
That we now have our own dedicated courtroom on the 6th floor in the circuit courts, courtroom 6C,
Okay.
and it's every Thursday. And we have a team meeting first there's a meeting at 8:30 with a few of us, and then at 10 o'clock there's a team meeting. Then at 11 o'clock is a drug court session with those who are working night shifts or those who are new in drug court and don't have jobs yet.
Right.
And then there's at 1:30 we have admissions that come into drug court, we have sanctions hearings, and then we start another drug court session at 4:30, and that goes until about 7:30 at night. And that is on a weekly basis. So anybody wants to come watch drug court, just come on in.
Wow, great. And let me ask you this, because I think drug court is the best program in the country. When I first got involved in the profession, in addiction, I'm an addiction counselor by trade. Treatment was much longer, and it seemed, and the data showed that the longer you stayed in treatment, the better your chances were to stay clean. Drug court and Troza in North Carolina are the only programs that I see are holding at 2 years. Is that a magic number, or did you think about that, or why 2 years?
Well, it's an interesting. It's a good point, because one of the hallmarks of our drug court is we adapt and we change as the need arises. And when I first set up drug court, if you did everything perfectly, you would be done in 10 months.
Oh, okay.
That's way too short, because it's about change. It's one thing to stay clean, but the same person is going to go right back out and use again all over again if that person doesn't change. And we were seeing that, and we were seeing that 10 months just wasn't long enough. So it's phases. There's phase 1, if somebody comes in brand new, they've got a lot of requirements. Phase 2, they then move in, this requirement step down, 3, and then 4, they're getting ready to graduate. So we have longer periods in phase. Now, if an individual does everything perfectly, they can graduate in 20 months.
Oh,
but
okay.
the average length of stay in drug court is 3 years.
Oh, I thought it was 3 years. Okay.
The average length of stay is 2.5 to 3 years. So we tell people who are coming into drug court, it's going to take 2.5 to 3 years for you to complete drug court. Because, as you've mentioned, the longer someone does something, the more likely it is that they will continue to do that once they've graduated from drug court.
Okay.
And we made a conscious effort to focus on the repeat offender. First offender, second offender may not be addicted. They may very well get it with the traditional method of sentencing, probation, addressing it, and they're not going to come back. But somebody who's a repeat offender, they're coming into drug court with usually with a significant sentence
Right.
hanging over their head.
Right.
And that's important for a couple of reasons. One is fear. Fear is a motivating factor.
Yeah, they don't want to go to jail.
No, it's called, the gift of desperation.
Right.
And so fear, knowing that if I screw up, I'm going to go to the Department of Corrections, motivates me from doing something that I wouldn't want to do or don't feel like doing. And so, all right, I'll stay clean. And then the longer we stay clean, the longer we're going to 12-step meetings, the longer we're having this new way of life, the more likely it is that they will continue to stay clean. So and plus, if we're going to spend this kind of time, effort, and money, we want to do it with the people who need it the most.
Okay.
And I think the people who need it the most are the ones who've tried and failed over and over again, and they've essentially proven to themselves that it doesn't work the way they're doing it, their way is not working, and the community needs this person to be the focus of the efforts that we have in drug court.
Right.
So it's been a real process.
Right. And we're going to take a break in a minute, but I wanted to ask you, because there's a controversy about desire. Well, because in my recovery, people used to always tell me that you have to reach a bottom, and you have to have desire. No one can make you get clean. External motivation will not work. Once the external motivation is gone, you're going to go right back. But I've seen drug court people really change their lives and become very productive citizens, even though, like you said, you're holding the hammer on them. If you mess up,
Right.
you're going to go to DOC, right?
Right.
So what's been your experience?
Well, I mean, the history, for example, in AA, used to be they didn't like people coming in with slips. They felt people coming with court slips didn't really want to be there.
Okay.
But the reality of it is, there are any number of ways. It's a program of attraction. So once someone comes into a recovery setting and sees people just like them who are enjoying life, being comfortable and being sober, hopefully that person will say, I want what they have. I want the life that they have. I'm sick and tired of my life. And it's a very personal decision. And so by having this suspended sentence hanging over their head for a lengthy period of time, that hopefully motivates them and says, I've got, I don't want to do this. I've had enough.
Right.
And if I keep doing what I'm doing, I know this is where I'm going to go.
Right.
So they've got their own bottom.
Right. Oh, okay. So we're going to take a break right now,
All right.
and we'll be right back in a minute.
Sure.
I'm James Sutton. This is Road to Recovery. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be right back with Judge Nelson Rupp.
They gave me Vicodin after my knee surgery. They kept prescribing it, so I kept taking it. I didn't know it would be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Hi, I'm James Sutton. We're back with Road to Recovery. My guest today, Judge Nelson Rupp. So where were we, Judge Rupp? We were just talking about motivating a person to change.
Right.
Do they have to hit a bottom, or can we raise the bottom?
I think we can raise the bottom. And we raise, but by the time they come into drug court, they pretty much are at a bottom. Whether or not they're willing to admit they're at a bottom, we help them with that, with knowing that they either can come into drug court, go through this intense program, or they're going to go to jail. And so, a lot of people come in with thinking, well, this is going to be a get out of jail free card.
Right,
All right.
right.
I want to come into drug court because I don't want to go. They don't say that.
Right.
And I always ask them, why do you want to come into drug court? And they basically know what to say. Their attorneys told them what to say. But
Right.
but I tell them, I say, this is I go through what is required, and make sure they know on the day they're coming in what's required. They've already been advised. They already know that. They've gone through the screening. But what is unique about our program, that's why coming to a drug court session is just so moving, because we see people who come into drug court who are viewed as hopeless, helpless, and losers.
Yes.
Nobody is hopeless, nobody is helpless, and nobody is a loser. But that's how they're viewed. And that's how they see themselves, unfortunately.
Right.
I'm just not good enough. Why should I bother? And come into drug court and we give them hope. Hope for a better way of life, hope for a new way of life. And it starts with just coming to court. And each person goes through a little, they stand up in front of the judge, they're called up, and they stand up in the courtroom, full courtroom with people around, and they talk about challenges they've had that week, how they've addressed those challenges, what step they're on in recovery, who their sponsor is, what their sponsor has them working on, and how they've addressed issues that have come up without using. And so they have this interaction with the judge in a courtroom, and these are people who've never spoken publicly before anywhere, and they get comfortable with themselves. So you see that individual start to enjoy life. You see them start to have a sense of humor. They start to develop trust. Trust is a big issue.
Right.
And they start to develop trust. And we have for example, we have a 501c3. We have support from the county. We have support from the state. And so people who are in drug court have the opportunity. We help them with employment. We help them with education. We have an association with Montgomery College. We have somebody assigned to drug court through Montgomery College to help them with their education. We have people going to nursing school. We have people getting a CDL. We help them with the licensing process. So, because it's important that people have a viable, sustainable way of life. It's a lot easier to go right back out and sell cocaine as opposed to working at a minimum wage job at Burger King.
Right.
And so why should I do that and put up with all that when I just go back to selling drugs? So it's important that they have a sustainable way of life in the future. So that's part of what we do in drug court. We also require that people live in approved sober housing. You can't go back into the community where you were living before. The likelihood is, people, places, and things.
Yes.
Go back to the same people they were with before, just a matter of time, they're going to be using again all over again.
Right.
So they need to live in approved sober housing. And a significant percentage of our drug court people come in through the pre-release center, with employment through the pre-release center, and then they go to sober housing, either an Oxford House or XYZ House or Stepping Stones or the other sober housing, second chances, and they start to live in a community of sober living, and they start to have employment, a job, and they're feeling better about themselves. So by the time they graduate, they are winners. And they're feeling good about themselves, they like the life they're having, and the likelihood of them going back out again is greatly reduced.
Right, and that's a great partnership with pre-release. I mean, a lot of places don't have a pre-release center.
No, they don't.
And some of the other locations, their centers that they do have are not as good as pre-release. I'm not going to say any names, but some of our neighbors transitioned from a more confined situation to integration into the community is very poor. Pre-release does great, like you say, with the jobs. Even though a lot of drug court people tell me that you have so much structure, that you're driving them crazy, but
We do have a lot of structure.
because they're going from being so unstructured, waking up when they want to wake up, taking drugs, selling drugs, their lives are so, and time management is not part of it, right? When a person leaves drug court, they are very clear on where they have to be at all times.
Right, and we have case managers that they have to report to. Drug court, we have our own case managers that our drug court people have to report to, in addition to the treatment people and the probation agent. So they have case managers as well. So it's and part of the phase process that they go through in drug court is, when they get to phase 4, basically we're saying you're ready to graduate, but they are still subjected to random urinalysis. There's certain requirements, but the requirements are minimal. They come to court maybe once now every 6 weeks instead of every week. So we keep them in phase 4 so that we can just kind of keep a monitor on them that they have transitioned into being successful members of the community.
Right. Do you have any thoughts about starting a drug court alumni?
We have drug court alumni.
Oh, you have that? Oh, good.
Yes.
Good.
We have it, and it's gotten more active. I mean, it's there's and that's one of the things I wish we had more of, because we spend 2 to 3 years with these individuals.
Yes.
We get to know them. I mean, one of the things that I didn't appreciate as a judge, because in the criminal justice system as a judge, I'll see somebody, they'll come into court, they'll plead guilty. I'll spend maybe 20 minutes taking the guilty plea. Then there's sentencing. There's maybe another 20-minute sentencing hearing. That's it. And then if they come back on a violation of probation, but that's it. Drug court, I see each of these individuals, and I get to know them, and I get to like them, and I get to appreciate the difficulties they're having in life and the problems they're having, and I get attached to them. So once they graduate from drug court, I'm happy for them. Drug court graduation is just a tremendous event.
Yeah, I've been. That's great.
And but then, I don't see them that much. I mean, sometimes they'll come by the courthouse. They'll stop by to see me, which is great, or they'll stop in to see one of their case managers, or I'll see them at the grocery store or something like that, which is great. But that alumni involvement is important, and I know that that's something that we're working on strengthening and having an alumni group, and so we do have an alumni group, and but it's something that I'd like to see more of. I mean, our structure, there's so many requirements.
Yes.
It's almost like graduation free at last kind of thing.
That's true.
And now they don't have to worry about calling the line every day to find out if they've got to go to a urinalysis. They don't have that anymore.
Right.
So so once that structure is gone, hopefully they're going to meetings regularly and continue to go to meetings and continue to stay involved with 12-step meetings and stay clean. But so I'd like to see more of an alumni program.
Right. The reason why I brought that up is because Tree of Hope, we were once the Avery Road alumni.
Right.
So that's how we got to be Tree of Hope, the recovery community organization in Montgomery County.
Sure.
Because we saw the benefit of people that actually went to Avery Road for their own treatment, coming back and telling their story. And the same thing in jazz.
Right.
When I bring people in jazz that have 6 years clean, and they can say, I was in cell number 26, and the guys light up because they can identify, here's a person that's was in a jumpsuit, was right here, and now they are a manager in a corporation, or they're working on a PhD, or they're connected with their family. Then they were saying like, wow, it could happen, right? So, and it's tangible. It's not like they read it in a book, right? So I don't think it's anything greater than, peers helping peers.
Yes.
And this is what we do with Tree of Hope. As a matter of fact, we're starting to get drug court people coming to our trainings to become recovery coaches.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
so we'll have drug court people that are recovery coaches maybe come back and work at drug court.
That'd be great.
You know,
That would be great.
like Raymond. Raymond is a fantastic, Raymond Holmes. He's
Yeah.
a good peer that,
Yes.
you know, does a lot in the recovery community,
Right.
that has a lot of criminal justice involvement, and he uses that not as a badge of shame, but as a way to help others.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
And you know, you mentioned drug court graduation. I mean, drug court graduation is, you know, I've had hard-boiled defense attorneys come in and see that, and they go, "This is the most positive experience." I mean, adoptions are positive experiences, are happy
okay.
events, but drug court graduations are just as positive and just as happy, and it's a packed courtroom, and the stories there. I mean, the stories there. I mean, the people that come into drug court. I mean, there's, you know, we've everybody who graduates from drug court is a success.
yes.
And even those who are terminated unsuccessfully from drug court, commit a new crime while in drug court, you're out. And it's like a zero tolerance. And I ran into, at Bunny's annual picnic, I ran into somebody who was in drug court and terminated, went to the Department of Corrections, and she came up to me and she said, "Judge Rupp, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because
wow.
you taught me what I needed to do. I wasn't willing to do it, and by going to the Department of Corrections, I realized why I was there and what I needed to do if I didn't want to come back here.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm out, and now I'm sober." So the message is being delivered. It's just a question of when they're ready to receive it. And so even those who do not graduate or are terminated from drug court, or even go back out after they graduate, you know, eventually I believe they're going to get it, because the message is being delivered. It's when I'm ready to receive it. Now, those who received it, you know, we have, like I said, we made a conscious decision to take in the repeat offender. So it's a 100% recidivist population
Right.
that is in drug court. However, our drug court graduates, 20% at most are recidivists, which is an incredible number.
Right.
When you consider just the general population, at least 80% recidivate. And so you know, it's working, but it's not only working in that context, but it's working in the context that the message is being delivered. And you know, when you see somebody coming into court and they say, you know, the week after Christmas, they come in and they say, "This is the first Christmas that I've spent with my children. This is the first
That's
Christmas
big,
I've
yeah.
spent with my family." You know, it almost brings tears to your eyes when you hear that.
That's big.
And when we bring somebody in, I mean, there's one. I mean, everybody has a great story, but a couple kind of stand out a little, you know, memorable. One is Rudy. Rudy came into drug court, and he was probably about 45 years old, and he had maybe 43 prior convictions. You know, assault, disorderly, theft, drunken disorderly, you know, all those, you know, and a head injury. When he came in and he's coming into drug court, I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, there's no way. It's not going to work. I mean, he really is hopeless. But let's take a chance. Let's see what happens. You know, we bring him in, and Rudy just hit the ground running. You know, he got it. He did it. He has stayed sober. He graduated from drug court. He now has over 10 years of sobriety, and he has a head injury. And one of the things that he did after graduating from drug court is he worked with the Department of Health and started a head injury group for
Wow.
people who are suffering from addiction.
Wow.
And I went to it. He had an anniversary celebration. I went to it, saw the people that
great.
were there with him. And, you know, and not too long ago, I'm in the car, and I'm listening to WTOP, and they were talking about the Pope coming to town and so forth. And the next thing I hear a man's voice on the radio, very distinctive voice, and I'm thinking, that's Rudy. And it was Rudy talking on WTOP about meeting the Pope. And I mean, it's just these kinds of stories. I mean, they're not unique to drug court. It's
Right.
pretty dramatic, but it's not unique because it's people that are demonstrating the joy of living a new way of life.
Right. Right, fantastic. We really run out of time
All
this time. Yeah, you know we have to have you back because we could talk all day, you know, because this is our passion, right?
It is,
So,
it
you
is.
know, thanks you again for coming out today, and like I said, we'll have you back.
All right.
And because you're not going anywhere.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Judge John Maloney and Judge Debbie Dwyer are now running drug court on a regular basis, but I'm still around. I still come back.
Right, so we'll have you back. So this has been Road to Recovery. My guest today, Judge Nelson Rupp, and we'll see you on the road to recovery.